Welcome to Masters of Self University podcast, your highest source of sacred truths and universal wisdom. Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Rachel Fiori, mystic, spiritual teacher, psychic healer, and founder of Masters of Self University. Join our journey of soul transformation as we deep dive into this latest episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Masters of Self University podcast. I am your host, Rachel Fiori, and I have an amazing, beautiful guest here with me, a co-host today who is one of our certified mystical life coaches, Gregoire, and he is here to talk about an incredibly elevating and important topic, and it's partially why we get so stuck and unable to heal. So first, Greg, welcome. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here sharing this time with you.
Thank you. So before we dive into our topic, let me just say what it is. Your programs have their own consciousness. That is what we're going to talk about today. But before we dive into that, I want to say something about Greg as one of our mystical life coaches. I can remember Greg when he first entered, when he was in the class, the mystical life certification class, and he was understanding and comprehending the stuff that I was teaching on a level that most people don't get at first. And I could tell that you innately were very elevated, that you could take in these very high level of teaching and you could comprehend it and turn right back around and teach it and guide others. So I want to just highlight that because Greg has an incredible gift and he is a mystical professor. Like he is a divine teacher. And so I want to highlight that because it takes someone like you to be able to talk about a topic like this that we're going to dive into today. And your programs have their own consciousness. What the heck does that even mean? What does that even mean?
Yeah, it's like their energies, and any energy is seeking for survival, for expansion, to thrive. And so actually they're really in there, attracting life, growing, and then developing, and trying to develop any mechanism so they can stay alive and expand and thrive, actually, which is it's pretty amazing. And it can be also confusing because before I entered this program, I was shown throughout different, like between the lines in many different things, that there is this consciousness at the back that is really organized, and it can be mistaken by someone is behind all this, and actually during the program at Master of the Self, it became very clear, like, oh, we are deep. This is answering and clicking all those messages I had before and putting them all together, and actually precisely showing me how they're all consciousness living inside our own system. And I've been shown also during the healings how they can actually, they're not bound to one system because we're all one, so they can also travel and be and spread throughout people, which is
Absolutely. So let's dissect this a little bit. So first of all, let's go to just the basics. And what are we talking about when we're talking about programs? Your programs, your mental, emotional programs, your behavioral programs, your inner child wounds. Those are the things that make up our shadow selves, our ego. Okay. Your mental programs, that's what your mind gets triggered and activated. The stories that your mind tells, the stories that your mind tells about a person, a situation, something that you're moving through, a life experience that's very uncomfortable, that you don't want to be experiencing, your mental programs get activated, and there they go, just spewing off. This is unfair. I don't like this. That person's a jerk. Those are your mental programs. And your emotional programs, of course, that's easy. What are your emotions? What's the pain? Are you angry? Are you frustrated? Your programs tell you everything about your shadow self. Are you judging that person? Are you pointing the fingers? Are you blaming? These are all your programs. Okay. When we get triggered, our programs get activated and they, boom, start running on autopilot and they take over. A lot of times they just take over. So it's that sometimes when we say like, oh, I don't know what happened, what came over me, that wasn't me. People will say this a lot. And well, in a way, it wasn't. It was the program, and you slipped into unconsciousness. That's what it means to be unconscious. The program you're running, the mental thoughts, the emotions, your behaviors that are activated because of how you feel and what you think, all of that takes over. And then it's almost like you don't know what happened. That wasn't really me. It was, but it wasn't. They were the programs running. So when you understand, those are just the programs that run, that get triggered, activated, and then boom, they come online and they start playing out. Those are just energies, as Greg said. They are energies. It's an energetic program running. Now, if you can understand that part, we are going to take you to the next level of that, which is when those programs get created and locked in, meaning they become your personality. That means that particular program actually develops its own consciousness. And that's why it gets activated, it gets triggered, activated, and it takes over because it's now running. That is its own consciousness, that program. And this is why it can feel like it's so hard to heal or it's so hard to break a habit. And I'll tell you right now, the programs of addiction, no matter what type of addiction a person may be struggling with or trying to recover from, addiction programs, they have their own consciousness. So you try to treat this stuff with talk therapy, it doesn't change the energy of the program. It doesn't alchemize anything, right? So that's what we're talking about today. And I'm going to challenge people. If you just heard the first 7 minutes of this and thought, holy shit, what the hell are you talking about? I am going to challenge you to stick around for the rest of this episode as we kind of tease this out. So, because programs have their own consciousness, you have to understand that they want to survive. It wants to keep going. It wants to live through you. It doesn't want to not live. And here's the truth. Nothing dies. Energy doesn't die. It transforms, it changes frequency, but it doesn't die, which is why when we try to get rid of our bad habits, our addictions, the things inside of us that are unhealed, we want to get rid of it, but we approach it in the wrong way. We don't approach it in a way that stems from energetic alchemy. We have to transform those energies into something else because energy never dies. So I'm going to invite Greg to comment on that a little bit and take us a little deeper.
Yeah. Well, what to add, that's exactly it. They're really energies, and they can develop strategies for surviving, for tricking you. And they so some are more developed than others, and they can get to a certain degree of I would say inertia, almost like that. They almost become like consciousness, almost like an entity. You could even think like, yeah, this is a part of me, but which is behaving in its own way, and is blocking me. It's like a little bit like being caught in a spider net somehow, because many times when this button is being pushed, they take over my own will, my my own consciousness somehow, and they project everything into what I perceive, the way I perceive. And
Exactly. It absolutely influences what you perceive, how you see things, how you're interpreting an interaction with somebody. It absolutely blinds you to what is really happening in front of you, and it blinds you to being able to see truth, these programs, whatever your programs are, because those energetic programs have their own consciousness. So they were created. So let me give you an example. If somebody is running a program of defensiveness, okay, so this is an energetic vibrational frequency that when somebody gets triggered into defensiveness, they are perceiving an attack. Defensiveness is triggered and activated because there's a perceived attack. Oh, hey, honey, I really want to talk about something that's been bothering me. And it's this. And, oh, bothering you? What about when you did blah, blah, blah last month? Whoa, what the hell? I'm trying to talk about something in our relationship that needs to be healed, loved, elevated, so that we don't interact in that dysfunctional, unloving way anymore with each other, between each other. And the defensiveness shows up because there's a perceived attack. So when I have a defensiveness program running, I, in my egoic illusion, are projecting onto you that you are coming after me, telling me I'm wrong, I'm bad, I'm a piece of shit, and I then get defensive. Does everybody understand that? So if you get defensive and that program is running, understand the energetic vibrational frequency. The consciousness of defensiveness says, I cannot calm down, relax, be loving. Those frequencies are not a part of the frequency of defensiveness. Defensiveness is a part of the frequency of defensiveness. That's it. Like defensiveness got triggered, and now that energy is running through you and it has taken over. That consciousness is now showing itself. It's time for me to be activated and show myself and be what I am. And what I am is defensiveness. You, the person, are not defensive. The program is, and that consciousness is now running through you. So in this example, it's if some of you are still hanging in there and you're understanding what Greg and I are trying to teach you, you can understand why it's so hard to simply just say, okay, don't be defensive anymore. Hey, Greg, just don't get defensive anymore. Like, what do you say to that? Like, just stop. You don't have to get so pissed off, Greg. You can just stop being defensive.
Just let it go.
Just let it go. Write it on a piece of paper and burn it in a fire ceremony, your defensiveness program, and it'll poof, be gone. What do you have to say about that? Because a lot of people try to do that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, it's coming to tell us something. And just something I wanted to add is that in this very example you gave, it's funny because it will then make you act in an aggressive way.
Yes.
There is this polarity that comes on the place, and this consciousness will justify you being aggressive.
Yes.
So the very thing you think you're answering from is actually what you're giving back.
Yes.
Which is amazing, actually, to realize how this
it's incredible.
Yeah.
I love that you said that, Greg, because that is exactly it. It's so the program of defensiveness gets triggered. And now, because it's triggered energetically inside of you and it shows up and takes over, your words are defensive, your behaviors are defensive, you start to act in an aggressive way. You're actually attacking back because of your misperceived attack on you, when really in the example I gave, oftentimes it's just your loving partner trying to make sure there's harmony. And in the relationship, they're trying to make sure that nothing is interfering with the loving relationship that you have. And instead of seeing that from the divine truth, right, of the scenario, you're misperceiving that they're attacking you. And Greg hit the nail on the head. That's it. Like, then here you go, turning into an aggressive, defensiveness is a very aggressive energy. Why? Because it's a survival energy. It feels, think about this, it feels attacked. What happens to the dog in the corner when it feels like it's attacked? It will bite. And it doesn't mean that it's an aggressive dog. It's in fear and it feels like it's being attacked. It's going to bite back, right? It's an easy example to understand. And that's why the program of defensiveness, that consciousness that is running through you, we need to change it. We need to heal it.
Yeah, we need to go first see that it's take responsibility for it and witness how it's distorting and feeding itself.
Oh, I love that. Witness how it's distorting and feeding itself. I love that. Yes.
Of course. And until we really take full responsibility for the way we're perceiving the situation and go into there and find out where is this coming from. And actually, there's no way to just work at the superficial level of the behaviors and let it go. It's not possible. And the emotion is there. What can I do with it? You know, it's there. It's real.
Yeah.
It's not like it's something, it's a fantasy or something. It's real. It's the consciousness that comes to speak, to be heard, to be acknowledged, and which is holding a lot of information, precious information about what actually you're really seeking.
You got it. It's a consciousness that is speaking. It wants to be heard. I love that. This consciousness is speaking. It got triggered, activated, and it's trying to speak to you and tell you something. You know, it's living through you. It's just living through you and acting out through you. And so when we realize that I've been triggered and here's a defensiveness program running, this energetic program, oh, look at that. We then start to do the work that the coaches at Masters of Self University start to move you through and teach you. From this point, the surface program is defensiveness. And our certified coaches then say, okay, let's start connecting the dots into how, when, and where this defensiveness program got created. Because when you realize when it got created, how it got created to begin with, you can go into those energies and completely alchemize those energies. So before we speak on that, though, I want to talk a little bit about, you know, Greg has mentioned, you know, you can't heal this at the surface level. You cannot heal behaviors at the behavioral level. Behaviors are a symptom. And you're understanding that more now. Something is deeper creating that behavior to flow through you, right? And that's this consciousness. We're going to stick with this example to keep it easy for now. The consciousness of defensiveness. That got triggered and activated, and that's moving through you. So a lot of people will say, if you just meditate and say your affirmations, I am peaceful. I am loving. I'm going to say my affirmations, and that is going to heal my defensiveness. I don't want to be defensive. I don't want to attack my partner. I don't want to attack the people at work. I don't want to be defensive. I can see it. I don't want to be that way. So I'll just write out my affirmations and I'll say those every day, and that will heal my defensiveness. And Greg, what do you say to those people?
Then most of the time they will end up like passive aggressive and also they just ignore those consciousness. They're not available for them, so they're just running away from the very consciousness that are trying to get their attention. So it's just pushing them deeper into the system and giving more time for them to develop even more. Or it's sometimes it's trimming the tip of the branches, because for me I see that like really like trees, like
Yes.
trees of consciousness, and they develop and they branch out, and so we are aware of the tip of the branches, like,
Yeah.
oh, I think that right now I have this emotion, and I'm gonna run away from it. I'm gonna have a drink or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So you can stop the drink, you can but still you're and you can think, oh, I'm doing something about it. Yeah, but you're doing something about the tip of the branches. You're
Yeah.
just trimming them, and actually they will even grow further. It's like like when you trim trees, you know, sometimes it even boosts them. And
Exactly. I love that analogy too. It's beautiful. So I want people to understand, when you take some of the tools that are taught out there and you don't understand the deepest level of programs, you don't understand the deepest level of energetics, okay, you don't understand how this works at an energetic level, then what happens is the very tools you use, for the most part, is a waste of time. It's a waste of time. You might, as this beautiful analogy that Greg offered, you might, trim the tree a little bit, but what happens when we trim the tree often? Everything grows back more lush. So you're not actually getting to the core, to the root cause of that defensiveness program or whatever program, or the addiction program. You're not getting to the core, right? And you're not, when you get to the core, in order to transform it, heal it, you have to understand energetic alchemy. That means transforming the very energetic frequency that is in there. Energy never dies. It lives forever, infinitely. So in order for it to live, to not be a part of who you are anymore, isn't to kill the energy or get rid of it or heal it. We use the word heal, but most people don't even understand what that means. It means transform the vibrational frequency of it, so that it no longer vibrates at the level of defensiveness anymore or addiction anymore, right? So when you go in and learn how to energetically alchemize the defensiveness, it's where was this created? Was it created because one of your parents was very critical of you as a child? One of your parents might have been verbally abusive and you felt attacked all the time. Nothing you did was good enough. This is just one simple example. Then when you are always criticized or put down by a parent or your parents, and maybe that was how you were raised, then someone now when you're an adult, someone criticizes you, whether they are actually criticizing you or not. Remember, misperceived. But you will take everything that you don't like to hear from somebody, and you will, in your misperception, you will hear it, see it, and interpret it as an attack, right? And there's the program running. There's the program running. So affirmations don't do anything to change at a level of energy, of vibrational frequency. You can't say affirmations and that magically changes the wound of being verbally abused by your parents, for example. It doesn't heal that wound. What it does do in some cases, it actually strengthens the defensiveness program. And Greg touched on this already, and I want to explain it a little further. If you say, I am peaceful, I am in surrender, I am in flow, I am flow, the defensiveness is like, fuck you, no, you're not, I'm not. That's not what defensiveness is. Do you understand? It's like the opposite of what defensiveness is. Defensiveness has aggression in it. So peacefulness, flowing, ease, that is not the frequency of defensiveness. That is way up here, very elevated. Those examples I gave, peacefulness, calmness, ease, surrender, flow. The defensiveness is an aggressive program way down in the negative, realm. So the defensiveness actually can get worse because it's fighting to stay alive. It's like, no, I'm not those things. I'm defensiveness. And so it actually anchors, our affirmations can anchor our defensiveness or our negative programming in much worse than they were before over time. So is there ever a place for affirmations? Yes. After you heal the damn program. You heal the program and you transform it into peacefulness, calmness, flow. You have to transform the energy. So, affirmations, oh, they're so misunderstood. They're so misunderstood. So going deep, can you describe a little bit about our process of connecting the dots, Greg, in what we do at Masters of Self University with our coaching programs?
So it's all about raising our awareness of all the dynamic and of those programs. So mental programs, emotional programs, behavioral programs, and inner child wounds. So we actually get from the tip of the branches, know what we are aware of actually. And as their consciousness, we learn how to get back to our own divine power, to be able to welcome, embrace, and transform anything that's coming up. And the more we're able to grow our power and stand firmly in there, the deeper we can start going into those trees of consciousness, all the way to their roots. Because of course, the deep roots, the deep wounds in there, they're very painful. Yeah. So it's not like we can get there all of a sudden and please clear this for me. This has been created a long time ago, and there is a lot of inertia. This is the way I feel it's happening. There is some inertia and some strong energetic behind it. So you cannot just suddenly decide I'm going to go all the way to the deep root and even being able to face it sometimes because it's too painful. So we learn very progressively to get from the tip of the branches and go further and further down, all the way to the root of it, in a loving, compassionate way.
Yes, in a loving, compassionate way. So I'm going to dive into that right now because this is really key to the work that we teach and offer at Masters of Self University. We have to stop, first of all, the acute level of self-awareness. Greg mentioned you have to gain an acute level of self-awareness of the programs that you are actually running that actually get triggered. That is always number one, awareness, awareness, awareness. And then when you learn the process and you're coached through the process of going deeper, deeper to get to the core, to the wounds that actually are running, that are feeding these programs. When you get there, it is not about, screw you, I don't want you to be here. I don't want this to be a part of who I am. You're not offering judgment, anger to it. You're not blaming it, shaming it. Oh, we shame and we don't even know that we're shaming ourselves. We abandon ourselves constantly and we have no awareness that what we are really doing is absolutely abandoning ourselves in our pain, in our programs that we run. We can't even see that we are the ones that abandon ourselves, not other people. It's like, but other people do. My partner just cheated and left. My dad ran out on us. My mom, whatever. But those are examples of we had an experience of abandonment and then we abandon ourselves over and over again because we're not willing to sit in our pain and alchemize and love the pain as it comes up. It needs love. Why? That's a very high vibrational frequency. And that love and compassion is the vibrational frequency that transforms, that alchemizes the lower, quote unquote, negative energies that are in there. Love alchemizes those energies. The power of your divine light, that golden white light goes in energetically and alchemizes, it transforms those negative frequencies into a much higher vibration. And so know, as Greg said so wisely, You're not going into the very wounds and pain that you've been suppressing, avoiding, ignoring for sometimes your entire lifetime. And in, 2 minutes, you're like, oh, heal them, be gone. You have to see them. You have to own them. You have to learn what divine power means. And that means to go inside of the pain, inside of the darkness. You cannot transform darkness if the light doesn't go inside of it. You have to infuse that dark energy with the light that you are. That's power. So when people are afraid to feel their pain, I'm going to ask Greg to share now. What is it? What kind of guidance can you give to them? But I don't want to feel that again, but that's scary. I don't want to feel that pain. And what do you have to say about that as a mystical life coach?
I have to say, the first thing I would really point out and try to show and guide people to see is how they've been trained and taught how to close their heart and how to give their power away, because this power is always here. This is our birth gift, birthright, and we've just been taught as a low maturity cultural I don't know what, we've just been taught over and over again how to close our heart, how to give our power away to external stuff, how to do the opposite work that we relearn to do here, and step by step, and which is actually, I'm trying to escape and giving all my power away, and something is really trying to get my attention with this and this is so beautiful, because those consciousness that are really hacking us and that can create all kinds of weird, and that are creating actually everything we would like to see change in the world, but they're here for a very beautiful reason, and the really fundamental reasons why they're here is because they want to deliver you the keys to your own freedom, to get you back to your own power.
Absolutely. I think it's beautiful. Our programs that we run, our negative programs, our pain, our wounds, within them hold the keys to our freedom. It is beautifully said, and it's truth. It's divine truth. Inside of those very programs, that they hold the key to your emotional freedom, to your mental freedom, to your spiritual awakening, to your ability to elevate higher and higher in your level of consciousness, so that you can actually experience and create peace in your life, to emotionally be healed and in peace instead of in depression or anxiety or continuing to have PTSD or whatever it is for you. To no longer have suffering is, we have to learn to embrace our pain, go inside of the energy of pain and alchemize it, transform it. And how do you do that? Well, you realize you're a divine, very powerful creator being who's made of nothing but energy. And because you're made of energy and you're a divine creator, you are a master of energy. You already can alchemize, you just might not know how. But you have to be willing to learn the skills, the tools. How do you go inside of energy, especially when they're painful and they're old wounds or old traumas unhealed? Go inside of them and change them. This is warrior's work. I always say this is warrior's work. It takes a warrior to go in and do that. It means it takes you realizing you are a divine, powerful, powerful being that can handle some emotional pain and transform it into something that is a higher vibrational being. Stop shortchanging yourself and thinking you're too weak and pathetic and incapable to be able to do this stuff. Everyone has the ability to do it. You just might not have the know-how. And that's what Masters of Self University is here for. That's what we're here to teach you, step by step, how to go in and be this powerful and do this for yourself. That's one of the things that I love so much about this work, is it's so incredibly empowering, because it teaches every person, every client that comes to us for coaching, it teaches you exactly step by step how to do it for yourself. And that's the best part about this work, in my opinion. In my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. This is so amazing. And also something that this consciousness, they're not bound to you. So just as I was saying, like you learned how to close, and we pass this over and over, and we spread it. It's like we spread the seeds of those consciousness everywhere.
Yeah.
So for me, it was really during this program, at many time I could see between the lines, it was shown to me, yeah, you find it finally. This is the place where you're going to be able to reverse that process you've been seeking for so long, and it's like, now I'm no longer spreading those seeds. I'm learning how to go there, to stand in my power, to transform those trees, and now these different seeds I'm giving back to the world. And that's wow. So thank you so much for all that.
Of course. Oh, thank you for being willing to step into your power and become the magical being that you are. Because that's it. It's what Greg was just saying. Like, he is now spreading different seeds. He's now spreading the seeds of divinity, of power, of empowerment, of courage, of joy, of happiness, of peace. He's now able to spread that because he's learned how to go in himself, inside of himself, and alchemize the programs that were running in him before, that would get triggered and activated, like all of us. All of us have this as humans, right? But learning how to go deep inside of yourself, seeing what's there, and then embracing it with loving compassion and with love, with high vibrational frequencies of divinity, the light that you are, you transform those energies, the consciousness of those programs, instead of being a very low level of consciousness, defensiveness, hate, anger, judgment, blame. Those are very low levels of consciousness. So these programs carry a very low level of consciousness. I want everybody to really think about that, really take that in. That when you are in addiction, when you have defensiveness, when you have hate, when you are judging other people, when you're creating separation instead of oneness, every one of those energetic programs is a reflection of extremely low level of consciousness. So the program of defensiveness itself, that energetic program, is a consciousness that is extraordinarily low. It is not divine, right? Divinity doesn't get defensive. And so the consciousness of each program that is running inside of you, the consciousness of fear, is an extraordinarily low level of consciousness. Fear has a consciousness, and it is not one of love or joy or peace or oneness. It is the consciousness of fear. See, there's a very low level of consciousness. So every one of our programs has its own level of consciousness. And let's get real. I want you to realize this now. They're all low levels of consciousness. And because of that, we say, oh, look at our world. Look at how terrible the world is. There's a war going on in the world right now. There's hate, there's this, there's control. Well, there are all running programs that are very low level of consciousness. And to respond to those programs out there that are running on massive scales, you cannot respond to them with additional low levels of consciousness, with hate and anger and judgment and blame, because what you do is you fuel the very programs that you say you're here to change. You're not changing them because of the energy that you are. You have to come from a place of divine power, where the only way to do that is to look at yourself and heal your own programs and change those programs of consciousness to high levels of consciousness. And that comes with being willing and devoted to learning the work, spending, months on, step by step, how to learn energetics and the ability and the process of alchemizing this stuff. So if here's my question for Greg. I'm going to invite you to share on this, Greg. If there are people that are listening to this that are like, I don't know, this sounds way over my head. This sounds like
Oh,
I can't do it. This sounds like I could never learn that. What do you say to that?
I say this is also something I told myself is how basic this teaching is coming. Like it's really very digestible from every type of. If you have a strong intention, really willing, you need some the will and the devotion to go through this work, because like Rachel said, this is hard work and this is warrior work, but not in the way of the warrior that fights. Actually, it's warrior
Right.
way, like to be in integrity, to be willing to do the work, willing to see all those parts of ourselves. And we all have this inherent ability, and the way the program is put up is so simple. I would say almost like baby food. This
Yeah.
is really basic. So even though you're not, if whatever we're talking about seems a little out there for you, we don't talk about this during the program. This is something that is happening during a very simple step-by-step program that everybody can easily go through and discover. Of course, you cannot be aware of what inherent power is lying there until you discover it. But we're getting you there step by step, easy.
I love that. Absolutely. And he's right. I love what you said, Greg. And, you know, these things are truths about energy. And this is not a common, teaching yet in our world. And that's okay. But because it's not in our everyday society, then we don't start a coaching program where we're going to talk about the consciousness level of the programs that you run, just because that's the truth of what's happening for those who can hear this and learn from this, because they're at a level of consciousness where they can understand all of this. That's perfect and beautiful for you. For those who can't, this seems a little over your head, don't worry. How we start our programs, really, in our coaching programs at Masters of Self University, it's here's week 1, step 1. And we start so simply with, okay, so you're triggered. Increase your level of self-awareness of what it actually means to be triggered. Because a lot of people think, well, I was triggered, it means I'm angry. If you are not 100% in peace, if something happened during your day, throughout your day, where you are not 100% in peace, then there is a program running inside of you. There is a program running inside of you. That's how simple it is. That's easy to understand if you just pay attention during your day. So how many times were you triggered? How many times were you triggered? And that's where you start. That's where you start. And then you learn, okay, so I was triggered. Well, what were your mental programs? What did your mind say in that moment that you were triggered? Because those are your mental programs. What did your mind say? Did your mind say, like, that's not okay, that's bullshit, I hate my boss is such an arrogant narcissist? Like, what is your mind saying when you got triggered? Was your mind saying, oh, this is hopeless, I'm never going to be able to do this? Those are programs. Those are energetic frequencies running through you. And guess what? All of those programs that run through you are what are creating and manifesting your relationships, your life experiences. And a lot of them are in your blind spot. You don't even know what programs are actually running. And then you say, why am I so stuck? Why am I so stuck? I've worked on this so much. I've tried. I've gone to therapy for 15 years, and Greg, what do you say to people like, but I've worked on this so much. I've done inner child wound healing like for years and it doesn't work. It didn't get me anywhere. What do you say?
I say, if it didn't change, if you didn't get the benefit of it, it's because you didn't get to the real core and alchemize it. You didn't know the energetic alchemy process to transform those things. So
Yeah.
it can maybe done something to your system. It could have created like windows of less of clarity or less intensity of those programs, but they will develop new strategy and keep on growing.
Beautiful. The consciousness of those programs will develop a new strategy to stay alive, and they will find other ways to take over and grow and keep being a part of who you are. And that is why somebody who, I'm going to give this example, somebody who is, morbidly obese and unhealthy, and they lose 150 pounds and they do the hard work and they lose all that weight. And then at some point, they start gaining the weight back. They start gaining all the weight back. It has nothing to do with your diet and exercise. The energetic programs that are in there, and they're going to be unique to each person. The energetic programs that are in there, that the reason why you were emotionally eating, for example, to begin with, the energetic programs say, I'm worthless. I'm unlovable. I don't like myself. I'm ugly. Somebody can be thin and in shape for a period of time after losing a lot of weight and look at their physical vessel and say, oh my God, I look so much better. And yet energetically, emotionally, they still feel fat and ugly. And if the emotions didn't get healed, if the energetic programs, the consciousness that says, I see myself as fat and ugly, then guess what's going to happen? The weight's going to start coming back on and coming back on and coming back on. You will not stay thin and fit and healthy for very long. And that's what people don't understand when they yo-yo diet. It's like, get to the core of what programs are running. Those are energies. They have their own consciousness and they're alive, and they're going to be alive infinitely. So just change the energy. This is what alchemy is. You find out, well, what programs are in there that make me believe and think about myself that I'm fat and ugly. And then you alchemize those very programs. When those are gone, there is no such thing as the physical body remaining obese and fat. There's no such thing. You will get to your perfect size, whatever that means for you. And healthy people come in all shapes and sizes. But whatever is perfect for you, you can then eat healthy, exercise, and it will just forever, will never be a struggle again. So that's the last part that I want to really emphasize with this. I want to talk about, a lot of people call healing, they refer to healing. It isn't healed if it isn't permanent, which means it hasn't been alchemized. So I want to talk a little bit. I'm going to ask Greg to talk about this a little bit. Somebody is going to some kind of coaching, healing, therapy, and they say, oh my God, I feel better. This is great. And then months or years later, they're struggling with the same problem again. This is coming back. What would you say to that? Because this is so key.
I will say, let's go to the root. We need to get to the I would say that there is some thoughts programs in there that have not been fully transformed. So they just coming back online. They just redeveloping themselves. And we need to really address a little bit further down, because maybe you get so close from it, but not all the way to the roots.
Yes. Perfect. That's exactly it. I want everybody to think of it like this. If you have a beautiful flower garden and all these weeds are popping up everywhere, and you're like, oh my God, my flower garden is being overtaken by weeds. All the flowers are dying. And you say, okay, I want to have a beautiful flower garden. I'm going to now go take care of these weeds. And you get some weed cutters and you go to the weeds and you cut off the weeds, every one of them. And it takes you weeks to get all the weeds cut. Really hard work. And you cut all the weeds and you throw them away, but you cut the top of the weeds off. And then you're like, look, the flower garden looks amazing again. You can't see any weeds. The beautiful flowers are everywhere. Yay. And then what you see in a few weeks is the weeds are taking over again. Why? You didn't pull out the root. You just cut off the top. And all that hard work of labor that you had to cut off every one of those damn weeds, it doesn't mean you didn't try and you didn't put hard work in. But if you don't get to the root and completely pull out the root, then those weeds are coming back. They just grow right back. You didn't take care of the root, right? And so in this work, it's you can heal to a certain level, but if you don't heal the core, the root program, they are growing back like weeds. They are coming back. Period. End. Energy never dies. So the beautiful work at Masters of Self University and our coaching programs takes you step by step to see what programs are running, and let's get to the core of every single damn program and completely alchemize it at the root, because only then does it not grow back. Why put all the work in and have it all come back over time? Of course that's frustrating, and it makes you feel hopeless in some cases. So if anybody is really ready to get to the core of their programs, and they're really ready to transform their lives, their relationships, the things they've been stuck on, then I invite you to go to www.mastersofselfuniversity.com and get a free consultation with one of our incredible mystical life coaches and sign up for a 3-month coaching program. It is the most powerful, deepest level of transformational work that exists today in the world today, very literally. And for somebody who has so many beautiful healing gifts, and for somebody who's been through so many different types of programs and things that he's learned in the past, I'm going to ask you, Greg, what makes this work really so different than a lot of other things you've experienced?
It combines many essential principles of who we are and how things work, like really at the core of this framework. So there is no, you take full responsibility, and so lessons of everything that's coming up, and you learn. It's all integrative. So most of the work that's out there will make you believe that trim this out, or get this rid from me, get me rid of that. And I do different type of healing. So I have many clients that come and request, like, oh, I have this thing happening, can you and I always say, yeah, I can alleviate the charge that has been developed, but I won't be able to do anything for you until you really take full responsibility for it. And this is what we learn here, in a very, very simple, straightforward way. Taking full responsibility for what's happening and knowing it's a very simple step by step, and behind it there's all the energetic knowledge of how to alchemize and change things definitely. And then, so this is by far the most empowering and transformative work I've done, and I'm so happy to be able to deliver it today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Greg. So on that note, we are going to say goodbye and end this episode of Masters of Self University podcast. Once again, please go to our website. Make sure you like this. If this touched you in some way, please share it with everybody that you know. Spread the word on this level of work so that we at Masters of Self University can help all of you at the deepest level possible. Sending all the love in the universe to everybody listening, and thank you for joining us. We will see you on the next episode. Bye for now, everybody.
Bye.